Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Topic. I am grabbing my pair of screaming goats. I'm Alex.
And I might have flicked a bit too hard. I'm Dan.
Oh, gross. That's.
I mean, unless you've seen the film or the trailer, you probably get it. But
It's a bit much, Dan, isn't it? A bit much. Yes, welcome, listener. And we've got another splendid film review coming up for Thor's latest fourth outing. Dan,
yes, it is.
Thor: Love and Thunder, of course, on back of the heels of our On the Go episode. If you haven't listened to it, it's a spoiler-free one. So we're not going to slap the klaxon on just yet. But if you want to have a bit of a brief kind of takeaway about what we thought fresh out of the cinema, literally from the doors, it's about a 10-minute episode. Nice and easy to listen to if you're just whizzing around the house doing some chores or going to pick the kids up or walking back from school, wherever you are. It's a very nice episode that you can just plug in, listen to, then perhaps follow on for this when you've got some more time. But before we get into reviews, and actually we've got some wider phase 4, 5, and 6 news, Dan.
Yeah.
Let's catch up. So we haven't, obviously, it hasn't been a long time since we've seen each other, but have you been up to anything exciting? Tell me.
Yes.
News?
So I'm really digging the new Death of Anna album at the moment, which is called The Present is a Foreign Land.
Ooh.
Something very raw and honest about that album. It's very enjoyable. It's very poppy. Lots of acoustic stuff as well. Very rocky in places.
The Star Trek theme there. Star Trek, one of the films was The Undiscovered Country. And the Undiscovered Country is the future.
Oh.
Anyway, always good music from those guys. So I need to jump on board and have a listen because since you got me interested a couple of years ago, I do like a bit of Death of Anna.
Yeah, no, very good. They appeared on Sunday Brunch on the Sunday just gone. Actually, I know we talked about this in our birthday episode. So someone asked, "What do we do on a Sunday?" So I sometimes watch Sunday Brunch, and I caught a wind that they were on there.
Someone's got to.
Yeah, so they were on there, which I was quite intrigued about. Usually, it's just artists I've never heard of, but yeah. Death of Anna, I mean, amazing. What else have I been doing? At the start of July, Alex, I found Star Wars: The Last Jedi or The Fallen Jedi on the Xbox One.
Oh yes. Good game. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I picked it up for a bargain. It was only like 10, 11 quid. I remember sending you a screenshot or a picture. I said, what are your thoughts? But yeah, really enjoying it. I've only done a couple of levels. I mean, I don't really get a lot of time to game these days. But when I do dive in, it's really good. I quite like the hacking and slashing element of wielding a lightsaber, smashing people in the face with the Force, good fun.
It does get, as it gets throughout the storyline, it does get a little bit more complex. My only beef with it is that it kind of forces you to go back to other levels in the storyline because they become now reachable as you progress and you unlock X ability or Y kind of move. And I don't think it's lazy game design because I mean it's been around for a while, right? I mean, Metroid Prime back in the day is it's always been stolen from that game. But I do find though that it feels like you're going over old ground, and I don't really like that in games. But I also appreciate that it's a tried and tested kind of game dynamic. It shouldn't be taken. So I don't want to dissuade you, Dan. I think continue because it's a polished, beautiful looking game and some really great storylines. Just actually the aspect that puts me off, but otherwise it's pretty good.
Yeah, so good. I mean, if anyone is a Star Wars fan and they haven't checked this game out, if you can get it on a bargain like I did, it's worth it for sure. Like a tenner, brilliant bargain. What else? Diving into Netflix at the moment. So I've just started watching season 3 of The Umbrella Academy.
Oh, right. I haven't started that yet. Is it again good?
So it's not even like a slow start, Alex. So the opening of episode 1 is phenomenal. Like it's just brilliant. But I mean, they do sort of, don't want to give any spoilers away.
No.
But the big bad or the element that is going to potentially destroy the world again sort of appears quite quickly. So yeah, if anyone's into the Umbrella Academy and hasn't started season 3 yet, I implore you do. The opening sequence is just brilliant. So good.
Well, that does include me, so I have to get on it, Dan.
And you're going to be proud of me. You are going to be proud of me. So it's come up so many times over the years of doing this podcast. I haven't watched Stranger Things.
Oh.
So I have. I tried to watch episode 1 back in 2017. I had a stomach bug. Wasn't feeling well. Thought I'll find something to binge. Couldn't get past episode 1. Didn't enjoy it. It transpires. So our friend Multiverse Dan, we call him. Hi Dan. He says when you're ill, and I think we've talked about this before, haven't we, Alex?
Yeah.
When you're ill, you naturally gravitate to things that make you feel more comfortable. Otherwise, if you're watching something new, you sort of feel a bit anxious, and you're not likely to go back and watch it. So that's probably why I never got into it. 4 episodes in, I'm quite impressed. I'm enjoying it. Haven't quite got on the hype yet though, because everyone raves about it.
Yeah, the hooks will come very shortly, Dan, because you'll just want to know exactly what is going on, what is the upside down, or where is Will, and it's going to hit you hard, Dan. But the good thing is you can binge watch it. You can binge watch all the episodes because you got 3-season backlog.
It's 4 now, isn't it?
Well, there is, but I wasn't counting this one because I know you're going to get through it. It's the others you got to get through, but it's going to be something you're going to look forward to. The question is, can you get Claire up to speed in time? That's the real question.
Actually, funny enough, before we started recording, I said to her, "Why don't you watch Stranger Things while I'm, doing the pod?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, whereabouts are you?" I said, "4, just finished episode 4." She went, "Oh, so you're not far into it then? I might jump on board." So we'll see. If I can get into it, mission accomplished. But that's really it for me, Alex. It's been pretty quiet otherwise. People don't want to hear about me going to Fratton Park to see Pompey play at a friendly, because let's not go there. We're not a football podcast after all. What about you, Alex? What have you been up to?
Coming back from Devon, I have seen Michael Bublé, Canada's finest, live in concert. He's a beautiful man, and his voice is just phenomenal.
Silky.
Yeah. I'll have his babies. And I'm a stereotypical heterosexual man that's married and got kids. But if Michael Bublé asked me to, then I'd have to give in. All things aside, he's very talented. He's an entertainer, right? He's not just a singer. He actually entertains. Whenever you see him on TV or interviews, definitely in concert, he knows how to work the crowd. And he's very engaging. And yeah, it is a really good evening. Wonderful stuff. What else? What's The Grey Man? So the Russo brothers' Netflix
Chris Evans
spy thriller. Yeah, Chris Evans. Chris Evans again plays a very sarcastic baddie, and I'm here for it. He's very good. He does a very good effort, and I can recommend actually. Netflix films, they feel a little bit half-baked.
Yeah, they always seem to have the good stuff, but they don't quite have the development of the characters behind it. It's always a bit like gung-ho. You're sort of straight in. There's no like real fleshing out of the characters.
Like Ryan Reynolds. No offense, Ryan, but your films are pretty much that. It looks and feels good, and you can't really knock it because it's got all the bits that you enjoy, but it hasn't really got much substance. Think about 6 Underground. I mean, that was quite good, but it's quite forgettable. And I think a lot of films that are made by Netflix are of that ilk. This one was actually quite good. So if you haven't seen that, I'd recommend it. It's definitely worth a look. What else? Anything else for me? I'm just working my way through Boys season 3. That's my backlog.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah, I know I've got a lot more to get through, but no. Otherwise, I think that's me, Dan.
Well, I mean, nice little segue. We've both been quite invested in San Diego Comic-Con recently.
Yes.
Nice little segue into our review of Thor: Love and Thunder. But Marvel Studios reappeared for the first time in 3 years. So it's the first time since 2019 they've appeared at a Comic-Con. And of course, they've announced the next 3 years.
Oh, yes.
Exciting times. I'm sure there's a meme on our Instagram page, which I thought was kind of represent how we feel about some of the announcements. Certain Vince McMahon on there as well, who's actually retired from WWE. Not that I've watched him much recently, but here we go. So San Diego Comic-Con, they've officially announced this is the Multiverse Saga.
It is. I mean, we all knew it, but it's nice to have a name to it, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've done it in the nice sort of logo lettering that they did the Infinity Saga in as well. It's like a silvery, metallic, rainbowy thing. It's quite beautiful. You always see it on like Lego sets and stuff. Stunning. But here are some of the things that were announced, and I'll try to squeeze in dates in my notes as well. So we've got Secret Invasion, which is going to be a series on Disney Plus, which will be out spring next year. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is going to be due in the cinema on May the 5th, 2023. We've got Echo, which of course we knew about, which will be streaming on Disney Plus in the summer of 2023. And then we've got the return of Loki in Season 2, which I'm quite looking forward to. Summer of 2023 on Disney Plus. We've got Blade, which is coming out in the cinemas in November 2023, which I believe is the 3rd. We've got Ironheart, which is another Disney Plus series, which is coming out in the autumn of 2023. Agatha, Coven of Chaos, another Disney Plus series, which we knew about, which is coming out in the winter of 2023. The big one, Alex, one we've probably both been looking forward to. Daredevil, Born Again, which is another series, which is going to be starring Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, which comes out in spring 2024. It's going to have quite a few episodes as well, if I've read it right. It's about 18 episodes, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. And they're going to be sticking to the weekly release. Ooh. So for a good couple of months, you are going to be treated to a continuous episodes run of Daredevil.
And that's probably going to cross over with Captain America New World Order, which is going to be out in May of 3rd, 2024. Thunderbolt, which I'm actually quite looking forward to, which is due out July 26th, 2024. And then we've got the Marvelous Family, the Fantastic Four, November 8th, 2024. And then the two big ones.
Well, before we get into that, Dan, just very quickly, you missed out two.
Yes, we've got, what have I missed out? The Marvels.
The Marvels in 28th of July, 2023. But no, kicking us all off on Phase 5, how can you forget? It's Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Quantumania. Yeah.
Which is actually where they just confirmed this week. Kang is going to be the big bad along with MODOK.
Oh.
So,
Did not know that.
Yeah, Scott Lang is going to be there at the beginning of the next phase, and it's all kicking off, Dan.
Hell's Teeth. What else? There was the trailer as well for Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
Very sort of quite emotional. We've also seen that, Namor, the Submariner.
Yeah, the Submariner.
The Submariner, he's going to be the big bad, and he looks magnificent.
He does, and I mean, he was a founding member of the Avengers in the comics, so it'd be interesting to see whether actually he sticks it out in Phase 6, which I interrupt you, Dan. Apologies.
No,
you're going to mention
fine.
About the two films kicking off Phase 5, weren't you?
Yes. So we've got Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, which is out in May the 2nd, 2025. Sounds like a lifetime away, but we've always said time is irrelevant. It will come round in a blink of an eye.
Mm.
And then November 7th, the big one, which we speculated for a while, Avengers Secret Wars.
Yeah, they're actually going to do it. I think I said 5, I meant 6, Phase 6, isn't it? Those two films are going to be, yeah. So it's going to be the ending of 5 and the beginning of 6. It's going to be back-to-back Avengers. And I think after Infinity War and Endgame being a year in between, people probably reflected and thought that was probably a little bit too long. I mean, the hype was definitely there, but really, I think 6 months is long enough.
Yeah.
Perhaps for what Feige's got planned in Phase 6 and beyond. So, yeah, not long to wait between the two, 6 months. But then in the grand scheme of things, that's probably the longest period we'll go without a Marvel film anyway, given what's coming up.
Well, you've got D23 as well, so I've no doubts that they'll probably announce something there. There's been hints of the X-Men, but we'll see.
And this is the thing, though, Dan. Something is obviously missing from this. Is Moon Knight season 2?
Yeah, it
No
really
Moon Knight.
is.
Now there are some gaps that you can slot in. Oscar Isaac's amazing new character series, and we did a review in it a couple of weeks ago now. I'll put the link in the description below. And they've been teasing a season 2. They haven't quite committed to it because apparently there's awards that it could be up for, etc. And if you go for season 2, then you may not be eligible. But I wonder whether that's the case, or I don't know whether they decide that he'll make a cameo. I mean, interesting enough, it's a segue. Feige's confirmed this week. I've forgotten who got the scoop. It was a magazine I think he did an interview for, and he confirmed that Daredevil and Spider-Man will both be the street level heroes that lead that world of the MCU.
Yeah, the street level. Yeah, I saw that.
Now, Moon Knight is obviously that in that realm of that power set. He doesn't go into space. I'm sure he has in the comics, but in the MCU, he doesn't go into space. He's very much kicking the crap out of people and stabbing them with his half moons. So whether or not you see the trio, look at Luke Cage. I mean, if you're introducing the Marvel Netflix characters where we see a Luke Cage, it's exciting stuff, Dan. It really is, and they're committing to kind of the different aspects. You've definitely got the power sets all ring fenced in their particular areas, and you've now got distinct identities and where they play in. You should really see Spider-Man in space. Doesn't really belong there. Pretty useless by all accounts. You've got to fling him around. He's got to be attached to a magical hammer of power in order to traverse the battlefield. So he definitely belongs in New York. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shapes up. But I think it's what they were really expecting. Well, most of the fans are expecting, should I say? Because we've speculated, haven't we, about what is Phase 4 and how's it all hang together. I suspect. I mean, I haven't read anything about Phase 4 and what it really means. Dan, have you?
No.
He hasn't summarized it, but I wonder whether 4 is kind of regret and fallout of Endgame, and people kind of coming to terms with their identities, and then you really then kick into gear with 5. I don't know, but anyway, it's chock-a-block, and we've got a good couple of years now to look forward to. And we'll hold Feige to that timeline, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's kick things off with Thor: Love and Thunder. Quick synopsis. We should probably let's do the synopsis and then we'll chuck in that spoiler klaxon.
Oh, yes.
This is, Alex, the 29th film from the MCU.
Oh,
29th.
That's amazing.
Thor embarks on a journey unlike anything he's ever faced. A quest for inner peace. However, his retirement gets interrupted by Gore the God Butcher, a galactic killer who seeks the extinction of the gods. To combat the threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who, to his surprise, inexplicably wields Mjolnir. That's not a spoiler, it's in the trailers.
It is, it's a fact.
Together, they set out on a harrowing cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance. So here is probably a good time to squeeze in the spoiler klaxon. I feel like we haven't brushed that off for a while.
It feels like, doesn't it, Dan? Yeah, it's, what did you say, 29th film?
29th.
Jeez.
29th and that's film. Not including the series on Disney Plus either.
Quite the back catalogue. So just in case you've been hiding under a rock, this stars Chris Hemsworth, of course, as a titular character, Thor. The phenomenal Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. No doubt we'll wax lyrical. That's already started about this character in a little while. We've got Tessa Thompson returns as Valkyrie. Jamie Alexander, which is quite a surprise, as Sif. We've got Taika Waititi as a director, but also as Korg, Russell Crowe as Zeus, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Mighty Thor, and many others. And as I said, Taika returns to give his continued flavour and interpretation of how the God of Thunder should look on our screens.
Mm.
At a budget down to 250 million smackers.
I mean, that's one of the larger budgets I think we've seen in a while.
Yeah, big bucks. Now, box office so far worldwide, sitting in at 601 million.
Oh, it's gone up since my notes then, because I've got 526.5 mil.
Yeah. Now this is worldwide. Domestically in the US, it took something the high 20s. And I don't know if that's any good, but it was topped up by the rest of the world. So yes, it's making bank. It's what, 4 weeks now out? 3 weeks?
Yeah.
3 weeks now.
Runtime of 119 minutes, which is one of the shorter films in recent years.
Really short, and no doubt we'll reflect on that in a little bit. Should we get into the film, Dan?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, the opening is actually very dark. So we're introduced to Gore and his daughter, Love. Now, they're both struggling in a barren desert. And despite their prayers to their god, who I believe is known as Rapu, Love dies. You know, this it literally is a desert, and there's like sandstorms. It's quite gnarly. It's
straight out the gates, and this is what you're faced with, which is not. I mean, it's almost Infinity War Endgame-esque, kind of quite dark tone, isn't it?
It really sets the tone for the villain.
Yeah.
Now, Gore is summoned by the Necrosword, which is calling him. So the Necrosword is the god-killing weapon. It leads him to Rapu's lush realm, which is a beautiful little forest, water everywhere, trees, fruit, you know, all the good stuff that you can imagine. After Rapu cruelly dismisses Gore's plight, he proceeds to strangle him. And this god is no small bloke. He's pretty big. Like, he is lifting him up in the air.
Oh, yes.
Then comes probably the grittiest bit of the film that I can actually recall. The Necrosword offers itself to Gore, and Gore puts that damn sword through Rapu's throat.
Yeah.
And then he vows he's going to kill all the gods in the universe.
Too right.
Now, the sword itself grants Gore the ability to manipulate shadows, produce monsters, and is cursed with impending death.
Oh.
And of course, you're corrupted by the sword's influence. So this weapon is pretty nasty.
Yeah, it can do some real damage, but you're gonna feel its effects, and you're not gonna walk away from it. It's pretty much a death sentence, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah. So Gore actually goes on a rampage. He kills several gods, but Thor only learns about it due to a distress signal from Sif, and parts ways with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's been busy, you know, fucking shit up, to put it politely or bluntly. And he finds an injured Sif, who warns him that Gore's next target is New Asgard. Now, I didn't realise this was Jamie Alexander.
Oh yeah,
I genuinely thought it was a different actress. I was like, but wait, I thought Jamie Alexander was coming back. I genuinely thought it wasn't her.
It's been what, 13 years?
Yeah,
10 years since she's last on the screen. So,
I recognised her at the end, but in this sequence, I genuinely did not recognise her.
Yeah,
I think the costume was a bit shite as well. Like, it's one of the weaker costumes of the film.
Yeah.
But hey, who am I to complain? Meanwhile, we see Dr. Jane Foster. First film back since The Dark World, so we haven't seen her since 2013. It's been a while. Well, unless you count Endgame, where we saw her for about a minute.
Yeah.
Where Rocket's basically sticking something up her ass again to get the ether. Whoa.
Okay.
Now, anyway, I digress. She's been diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer, which is quite bleak. She's getting medical treatment, but it's proving ineffective. So she travels to New Asgard, hoping that Thor's fractured hammer, Mjolnir, might heal her. Little twist on the comics, but I'll talk about those later. Due to an enchantment which Thor unknowingly placed on it years earlier to protect Jane, Mjolnir, clever little sod, reforges itself and bonds itself to her, so she becomes the mighty Thor. Although we don't see her till a little bit later.
Yeah.
Thor comes back to New Asgard just as Gorr's attack begins. Thor is surprised to find Jane wielding Mjolnir, but teams up with her, Valkyrie and Korg to fight Gorr. Now, I thought this was one of the more interesting fight scenes. I want a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a little bit downplayed, I think, given what Gorr could do. And obviously the baddies or the monsters, what you want to call them, that he's summoning from the Shadow Realm. Yeah, I thought it was short-lived, but the action sequences are quite impressive. You know, you've got two Thors fighting, you've got Valkyrie in the mix. It was a very good fight scene. Of course, as we recognise, I guess in the UK, that's where it's based, isn't it? That's where they've set down in New Asgard. Is that right? Is it in the UK? They've all English accents, bad ones at that, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too sure. I didn't look at the filming locations.
I'll Google it whilst we're talking. But yeah, I thought it was a good action sequence for sure.
I mean, I think they could probably easily have done it as the final battle scene, but we'll talk about that again in a minute. But the group managed to thwart Gorr, should I say, and he escapes. But in the process, he kidnaps several Asgardian children and imprisons them in the Shadow Realm. Having inherited the abilities of his dead father, Heimdall, Axel contacts Thor, who finds them. Now, Thor decides he's going to form an army of gods, so they travel to Omnipotent City, which is a realm that is the home to many gods.
Speaking of home, sorry, very quickly. It's actually based in St. Abbs in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
So that it's a real place. So if you want to go and visit there, guys, you can. It's in Scotland. A sleepy little fishing village. Home to poorly speaking English acting children. In reality, the MCU got some points that obviously a little bit later on. The MCU actually put it in Tonsberg in Norway, which is odd because they don't speak like people who come from Norway. Norwegian,
or that accent.
They speak with British English accents, so that's a little bit puzzling. But anyway, we'll go back down to the other home of the gods.
Yes, Omnipotent City. I think I've got that right.
Omnipotent.
Don't do this to me.
Omnipotent.
No, don't. I'm just going to call it Omnipotence.
Okay.
Because I'm a weirdo. The leader of the gods, Zeus, actually turns out he fears Gorr, but he doesn't want to help.
No.
He thinks that him and the gods can remain safe and hidden from Gorr in the city. So Zeus orders the group's capture to prevent them from exposing the city's location to Gorr. And then they have a fight. They scrap it out, they're duking out, and poor Korg gets destroyed, apart from his face.
The best bit, though, survives.
Yeah, he's all right. He's surviving. It's just that... It just looks like one of those little ticky masks that talks.
Oh, yeah.
It's really weird.
Or actually the Loki mask from The Mask with Jim Carrey. You know, just the front bit. That's the only bit apparently that the what's the species of Korg? I can't remember what they're called now. But apparently that's the only part of the body that needs to survive is the face.
Yeah. So he's all good.
He's all good.
Thor managed to get hold of Zeus's thunderbolt and just basically impales him. And he falls to what we think is his death.
We do.
And Valkyrie, she steals it. She steals a thunderbolt, and then they escape. So as their journey continues, Thor and Jane rekindle their romantic relationship. And this is where Jane reveals that she's got cancer. But then they arrive to the Shadow Realm, but they cannot find the children. Now, I liked the Shadow Realm. I thought this was very clever. So they arrive and it all goes to black and white. It's so clever. But every time you get that little bit of light, you sort of get a bit of colour.
Yeah, a little flash of a hammer or lightning bolt.
Very clever. I genuinely thought that was... I know it's little things, but
that was good.
It's genius. It's brilliant. So Jane deduces that the kidnappings were a trap for Gorr to take Thor's new axe, Stormbreaker. Now, this would allow Gorr to summon the Bifrost and enter the realm of eternity. So the realm of eternity will allow him to make a wish to destroy all gods. So he doesn't have to go around impaling people with the Necrosword. Is that a bit lazy?
Yeah, it kind of feels like he's cutting corners, but I guess some might say he's quite efficient.
I mean, it's pretty fair. I mean, it must get boring after a while. You know, you've probably killed gods in so many different ways. This is boring now. I'm just going to go wish them out of existence.
Yeah.
So Gorr overpowers the group and poor Valkyrie gets injured in the process. I think she gets stabbed in the stomach, doesn't she? Or
she does.
Thereabouts.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the group retreat back to Earth, but in the process, Gorr has managed to steal Stormbreaker. Of course. Poor Jane, she is drained of her strength, and it turns out that every time she uses Mjolnir, it's likely to kill her eventually. And maybe one more time, she's going to cark it. Thor persuades Jane to let him go and fight Gorr alone, and while she recuperates. So he wants her to stay on Earth and get better. Thor finds the kidnapped children at Eternity's altar. Using Zeus's thunderbolt, this is the bit I will talk about in a minute. He imbues the children's bits of scrap metal, bloody cuddly toys, and gives them the power to fight Gorr's monsters while he battles Gorr.
Yeah, temporarily gives them the power of Thor, which is quite funny because it's like when he whispers into Mjolnir, in the first film. I think he's giving them the powers. He says, "I temporarily give you," because of course he doesn't want to give these very young children the power to do horrendous things. Yeah, it's an interesting spin. I mean, if he could have done that, Dan, why didn't he do that in Endgame?
It's a fair
Why
point.
didn't he do that in Infinity War?
Could you imagine an electrified Captain America shield just being thrown about the gaff?
Mate, all of them wielding the power of Thor. I mean, yeah, but he didn't.
No.
We'll circle back to someone.
Yes, that actually appears in my likes and dislikes. So Jane, back on Earth, she senses that Gorr is about to kill Thor. Thor's getting smashed to bits. So there she is in bed. Mjolnir rocks up and she's like, all right, I'm going to go help him.
Yeah.
And she joins the battle to save him. They manage to destroy the Necrosword between them, which frees Gorr from its influence, but the three are brought into Eternity's realm. Beautiful blue skies, clouds, clean water. And this strange, almost looks like 2D, doesn't it? And it's like made up of universes and stars, and sort of almost looks like a weird hole or a tear in that universe in the form of a person. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. It's very odd.
It's essentially a silhouette, isn't it? Of I think it's of a being of some description, but you don't really see there. Yeah, it's a silhouette, but inside them is, I guess, the stars and the universe. That's what it looks like.
That's probably a better way of describing it, a silhouette. So Gorr is poised to make his wish, but Thor implores that Gorr revives his daughter Love instead of destroying all the gods. Thor leaves Gorr to make his decision, and he attends to Jane, who's basically succumbing to the cancer. Like, she is not looking good at all. Moved by their display, Gorr wishes for Eternity to revive Love. which the wish is granted. Gore dies from the curse, but he requests before dying that Thor takes care of love.
Which is quite a plot twist.
It very much is. In the aftermath, Korg's body is restored and he starts a family. Jane's sacrifice is honoured in New Asgard with a big bloody statue. And of course, we see Valkyrie and Sif beginning to train the children.
Yeah.
So this is the moment where I realised, it is Jamie Alexander. Brilliant. Thor adopts Love, who joins him in some heroics. And we see the former wielding Mjolnir and the latter wielding Stormbreaker as they go into battle. Roll credits. Now we get the mid-credit scene.
We do.
Where we see ourselves back in, what's the city called, Alex?
Omnipotent City.
There you go. And a recuperating Zeus. Got a massive hole in his chest.
Oh, yes.
And we are introduced to Hercules. And of course, Zeus is fuming. And he wants Hercules to basically kill Thor off. So, not the last time we'll see of Hemi in this adventure.
No, Thor will return. And Hercules, they all do at some point, but I think he features in the new Avengers mid-2000s comic arc. So it's not a lazy kind of continuation of the Taika films. He's actually legit a character straight from the comics. So, he's got a hit out on him, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more Clash of the Gods. It hasn't been announced in Phase 5 or Phase 6, but I'm sure they'll squeeze in a Thor film at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And then the end credit scene, which was a bit of a strange one. Now, I couldn't really sort of see any fan theories on here, but I do have a theory of my own. Jane arrives at the gates of Valhalla, where she is welcomed by Heimdall. And with thanks for helping her son, for helping his son, should I say. Again, couldn't find any theories on this. But in the comics, written by Jason Aaron, phenomenal run. If anyone wants to get into comics, good entry point, check out Jason Aaron's run of Thor. In his run of Mighty Thor, at the end, where Jane dies, I believe Thor and Thor's dad, what's his name?
Odin,
yeah, mine went blank then. They basically bring her back to life. Although, of course, Odin is not around.
Nope.
But who knows?
You're never really dead in the comics. I think it's fair to say. Look at Loki. So it might be... I don't think so, Dan. But you never know. Never say never.
There's always room, I think, for Secret Wars. It depends if they follow the sort of the 1980s one, or whether they go for, say, the 2015 Secret Wars, which was very good. And you get sort of all the different variants teaming up, fighting each other. And it's definitely an interesting route. But say we've got 3 years to wait.
We do.
And see what happens. But we should probably dive into some of the critics' reviews and then do our likes and dislikes. Overall thoughts.
Sounds good. So we sometimes go by Rotten Tomatoes. At least I've got some figures from Rotten Tomatoes. Critics down 66%. Not quite fresh, but not bad. The audience are 78%. So we like it more than the critics do. Now, the general feeling apparently is that in some ways, Thor Love and Thunder feels like Ragnarok Redux. So a continuation or a go-over of the last Thor film. I don't disagree with that. Got a very Taika feel to it. But overall, it offers enough fast-paced fun to make this a worthy addition to the MCU. Now, just give you some ideas about what makes up the 66%, Dan. Kevin Ranson from moviecrypt.com. Don't know who that is or what that is, but it's been cited. Apparently, anyway, Kevin says, falling short in giving real weight to any threats to overcome, the fifth Thor film settles into a story about love, loss, and sacrifice that every viewer can relate to while still wallowing in mandatory spectacle. Now, Stephen Redgrave from Pop Culture Leftovers, again, don't know who Stephen is or Pop Culture Leftovers, but I liked it, says Thor Love and Thunder is a solid addition to the MCU filled with laughs and thrills, but ironically struggles with its villain and identity, just as Thor seems to. So, an interesting mix there, Dan. I think by and large is overall positive, but there are some chinks in the armor.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Should we cover our favourite bits together and then we'll go on to our not so favourite bits?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll kick off the likes, and I'm pretty sure we'll probably sort of align on some of these.
Oh, yes.
First off, Christian Bale.
100%.
Phenomenal. Genuinely pulls off, and I said this in the On the Go episode, he does the creepy villain very damn well. Like, so good. Like, typical, like, child catcher sort of villain.
Yeah, 100%. Quite chilling. And, you know, for someone who didn't even know what the MCU was when he first took on the job, not that you do need to do the role to actually know what it's all about from Marvel, but just goes to show just how good he is. And he's phenomenal, Dan, isn't he? Like, he's a method actor. I doubt he got into the method of this one, because if he did, that would have been freaky. But he nonetheless was a believable character. You know, like you could understand, the Mad Titan and him wanting to save the universe by eliminating 50% of its population because of what happened to his home planet and the starvation and the overpopulation. You can understand it. You don't agree with it. He did it in quite a harsh and brutal way, but he was very calculated and very sure of himself. Gore, he's very similar. And because we saw literally the opening credits, the opening segments, just say, of the film, you see him going through that pain and the sacrifice only for it to be for nothing. You kind of understand it.
He feels let down.
He does.
He feels like the gods should be there to help him. And actually, when they don't, of course you're going to feel a little bit vengeful, I suppose is the right word, I guess.
Yeah. And when I watched him, I actually didn't feel like, he was creepy as hell, but I didn't feel as though he was, like misguided, or that he was doing something that he knew was particularly bad. He was doing something that he thought was just, and to save everyone else the same kind of heartache, because these benevolent or malevolent gods just are sitting by doing nothing, and they're not listening to their prayers, etc. And it's quite a deep kind of response to, I guess, the challenge of faith and religion. Whether you're a religious person or not, at some point those thoughts will cross someone's mind at some point in their lives, regardless again of what religion they follow, if they follow any religion at all. And you can understand where he's coming from. And so I wasn't watching him going, actually, he's just a character made to rampage and to be a plot device. You actually go, yeah, I get it. Because if I was in that situation and the god did nothing and you gave up everything, including your daughter, as the last members of society before you perish, you're going to be a bit pissed off. So I totally got it. And Bale is a quality actor. And I think he's up there with Thanos as one of the best.
Yeah, I think we've been asked to do an episode on favourite Marvel villains, or maybe somewhere we might rank them. I don't know. I think it will be an interesting episode, and I definitely think Gore the God Butcher / Christian Bale will be up near the top for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Second thing I liked, Natalie Portman. I feel like she was finally given a role as Jane Foster that actually does her acting chops some justice.
Yeah, I agree.
Just, phenomenal. She does the ill Jane Foster so well, but then she's bulked up to have the guns for the mighty Thor. And seeing that struggle between trying to be a superhero whilst fighting stage 4 cancer, it's just done so well.
Yeah, you can definitely see the struggle, the range of emotions, and yeah, I agree, Dan. I think she had some redemption. She had a pretty. I mean, she featured heavily in the Dark World. Don't get me wrong, but that film has been. I don't mind it. I know it's a unpopular opinion. I don't think it's that bad. It ain't great, but it ain't that bad in my opinion, anyway. Um, and she has a fair whack at it, but we really got to see her fleshed out in this. Excuse the pun. We saw the backstory, we saw her
Mm.
and the relationship with Thor, which was great. What did happen between um, Dark World and then Ragnarok? What happened there? We find out. We find out where she's coming from, and yeah, I think she actually got her justified kind of ending in the end.
Mm. I mean, it's not so much of a dislike. It's probably more of a criticism. Um, I don't know if there was enough. I mean, I said this in the On the Go episode. I don't think there was enough done to get me emotionally reinvested in Jane. I know I sound a bit hypocritical here, but I think maybe if she'd been more of a constant throughout the films,
Yeah.
maybe I would have, probably shed a tear. It's not like Tony Stark, for example, where I was basically in the cinema bawling my eyes out with him. Basically, he's just toast. He's just
Yes.
snapped his fingers and he's
Game
pretty
over.
much lifeless.
Mm.
Yeah, I think if she'd been in the films a bit more, then I probably would have been a bit more like, oh, that's actually like really sad. I'm not. I mean, I don't want to sort of take it away from that film because, like I say, they did flesh it out and they did it very well. And maybe Marvel did Natalie Portman a bit of a dirty with some of the storytelling, sort of throughout up until now, sort of excluding her. But so it's more of a criticism than a dislike. But yeah,
Agreed.
maybe a little bit hypocritical for myself. Natalie Portman, phenomenal actress, but perhaps as a character, not enough was done over the years to sort of keep me invested. And to try and cram it all into one film to get you reinvested, I don't think it was enough.
No,
But
agreed.
that's what I was sort of trying to get. I was a lot of waffle to get to that point.
We know what you talk about, Dan.
Yeah. The other thing I didn't like was the final fight scene. I just found it a bit cheesy,
Oh, right, yeah.
like the imbuing of the kids' weapons. And I think I just laughed incredulously at a child running around a shadow creature with an electrified cuddly toy. Like she's just laughing her fucking head off while
Mercilessly.
this literally like just electrifying some shadow creature. And I was like, it's funny because it's just bad.
Or is it funny because it's bonkers?
Oh yeah,
And that's
maybe
Taika.
bonkers. But then yeah, I mean I say it's Taika. And do you know what? I've said it before, comics, nothing needs to be realistic. I just didn't enjoy the final fight scene. I just found it a bit corny. I mean, otherwise, like so, if you'd swapped the fight scenes over, maybe had that fight scene at the beginning and then the one in New Asgard at the end. Yeah, I don't know. Just a bit cheesy for me, Alex. But did you have any dislikes?
Yes, I do, Dan. So, my favourite bits. So, I think I mentioned this on the prior episodes. Don't want, again, to say it too much, but do go and have a look and listen, guys, to the On the Go episode. Because a lot of our feelings, I think, by and large, still kept us, Dan. I don't think we changed our opinions or changed our minds since. A lot of love. A lot of love in this film. I know it's in the title, but you really do look at, loss and togetherness and faith and friendship and family. And it's a feel good, kind of feel good film. I mean, there are some bleak undertones, right? I mean, Jane's incredibly poorly. So you kind of got that, yay, she's back. Then no, she's not coming out of this. And that's I guess, the big C is prevalent in society, and it's something which, everyone's been affected by in some manner or respect. So it's a little bit too close to home, I guess, for me. But then you kind of can't escape it, and it kind of shows that anyone who isn't that superhero does have that mortality, should I say. And Thor goes through that journey of finding his love again and then losing her once more. Although he didn't lose her because they grew apart, he lost her, obviously, due to death. But unless I think that journey, I don't want to sound, flippant when I say this, but it really is like a beautiful part of his story arc. You continue post Infinity War, Endgame, where he's down the dumps, and he's starting to build himself up, build his identity, only then to be shook when he sees Jane, then falls in love with her, and then loses her or something else. I think that is a beautiful thing, and again, not to get too deep, I think that's a great aspect of this film. I think it's got love, and it comes in its droves. I'd like to see the modern age Asgard. Nice to see it settled after the events of Endgame. It was nice to see that they built themselves up, and it was thriving tourism, and they got rid of the old style Norse looking armor. They donned more modern outfits and security guards and likes. It's quite funny. And speaking of funny, I think I haven't laughed that much since probably John Wick Parabellum with you.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, we were laughing quite a lot. At some points, we were the only ones laughing, just because there was little quips here and there that they were hilarious. But I think there was quite a few gags and quite a few laughs from the audience. I think this was a fun film. I don't often laugh from films, and perhaps it's only with you, Dan, that I do it, because those two films, as I say, we both thought were hilarious. So I definitely liked the humour. I thought it was very, very good. Lady Sif, interesting. I say interesting, good, because I think Jamie Alexander similarly kind of got dealt a bum deal. Like, she wasn't in any of the films post the original Thor. She had a very short stint, I think 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which Feige continues to fucking ignore, even though the events of all the films take place in that TV series, all 7, I think, series.
Yeah, one of our bugbears.
And Sam Jackson's fucking in it 3 times. Like, how can you just continue? And the thing that really gets me, Dan, grinds my fucking gears. This is really where I get my high horse now, because those actors are brilliant. They've been so hardworking. They're so talented, and then just to be kind of sideswept under the carpet, not even acknowledged, I just think is an absolute travesty. And I'll continue to bitch about it. I am bitching about it, but I just think it's just, it's so disappointing that they've continued something and they've worked so hard to build that up for it just to be discarded. I think is criminal. But anyway, it's nice that Jamie Alexander returns, and hopefully she gets more screen time as Lady Sif. The interesting bit I think we kept on laughing at was, and this is one of my final put down here actually, was the relationship dynamic between Thor and Stormbreaker.
Yeah,
it's almost like the jealous girlfriend, isn't it? He says, don't worry, that's my old love and my old friend, as he talks about Mjolnir, and the axe continues to creep up on him as he, looks lovingly at his old weapon. And it's just funny because it's got kind of like embodiment of that kind of that relationship dynamic, which is it's just typical Taika, but it's hilarious and it's funny, and he keeps on reassuring it, and it keeps on playing up because it sees that he's longing for his old hammer. I think that's really quite funny. And there was an Easter egg. What was where does the final battle take place, you say? It was
just going to scroll back through my notes.
It was in some kind of Hall of Eternity or something, or
Eternity's Altar.
That's the one. So one of the statues in there looked suspiciously like the Watcher.
Oh yeah.
which is, I think, one of the final statues as you get closer to Gore and Stormbreaker that's opening in the Bifrost. And it looks a little bit like a Watcher. And I hope it is, because kind of the Watcher featured, I think, at the end of Guardians 2.
Yeah,
with one of the final cameos of thingamajig, Stanley.
Yeah.
He's on a planet, and I think he's talking to the Watchers, or he's in the presence of them.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And in What If, of course, it is all about the Watcher, and he breaks the dimensions and reveals himself, which he should never do, because of course you've got the Infinity Ultron. So I think that is the statue that I spied on the silver screen. I hope it was, because that's the first kind of proper nod, not just a post-credit scene. Yeah, I thought it was great. The bits that I didn't think were so great, Dan. And my question is, or rather was, where are the Olympians or the gods when the snap happens?
Yeah.
We've got another group of omnipotent beings who have sat apparently idle whilst half the universe disappeared. Were they affected? Now, I know you can kind of get around that by saying, well, Zeus, played by Russell Crowe, it says, they don't interfere and they're quite happy being safe in their city beyond the stars. But were they that safe that they were unaffected by Thanos? And surely their collective might could have taken him on.
Yeah.
So why didn't they? So now you've got the Eternals, and you've got the gods who decide to do fuck all about that. And I'm struggling a little bit with that, Dan. Because actually, Zeus said they would only interfere if they were, directly affected. In essence, he never said that, but they're selfish and they're only out for themselves. They don't care about the people who pray to them and celebrate them. But surely, if they're threatened, they would have all fought one Titan, Mad Titan. I don't know. I'm struggling with that a little bit. I don't really get it. Just like I don't buy the Eternals fob off in the first 15 minutes. I don't get it. The power of Thor, again, I mentioned a bit earlier on. If he could have done that in this film, why didn't he do it in any other film?
Yeah, and we'll probably never see that power again. It just seems to be an MCU thing. And
it's probably a bit overpowered. So, yeah, you can't keep on showing his powers to other people. So yeah, I suspect we'll never see it again. But then it's quite a misstep to not have used it when he really needed to. I don't know. The kids, nothing wrong with child actors. I just don't think they were the best. And their accents were very stereotypically British, but quite kind of not stunted. I can't think of the word, Dan, but they're stereotypically British.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that's not kind of how we speak, and it's not even set in Great Britain, although the actual fishing village is, of course. It's not in that country, so I don't know. I thought they took the shine off it a little bit. And no offense to child actors, just they weren't the right ones. And I thought it was a little bit rushed. Just the various different segments, as you say, the battle scene at the beginning could have really been fleshed out a little bit, because it was almost destruction of New Asgard.
Yeah.
It was a proper battle. There was a proper battle scene. We could have really seen a little bit more of Lady Sif in action, I would have thought. We should have really seen more gods die. And this is, again, the criticism of a couple of other critics online. Again, you've got to be very careful read online. But he's only killed a couple of gods, and we've seen the after effects. Could we not have seen him go into battle and pick them off? Just a couple. Just a short montage of him brutally killing some more gods, I think would have made him more dangerous, as opposed to being inferred. I don't know. I just think there's going to be an awful lot on the cutting room floor that probably would have made it just a little bit better. It wasn't a bad film. I enjoyed it. Quite the opposite.
I think there wasn't there? Because there was supposed to be Jeff Goldblum in it.
Oh yeah, of course.
There was quite a few actors that were supposed to be in it that never quite made the final edit, which
Yeah.
is a shame, really.
So yeah, Taika said that he doesn't believe in director's cuts, so I don't think we'll ever see that, which is a real shame. And I just think in places it was squeezed. Overall, liked it.
Yeah.
Still think it's probably within just my top 15, maybe. Definitely worth a watch. Lots of feels, lots of laughs. Did some backstory credit to some of the characters. So overall, double thumbs up for me. Thoroughly enjoyed the film.
Do you know what? I'd agree with that. Another enjoyable outing for our God of Thunder. I do think the critics were probably a little bit harsh. Agree with you, Alex. Doesn't make my top 10, so I'm still sticking to my guns after our On the Go episode. Now, is it better than Thor Ragnarok? No.
No.
But is it still better than Thor and the Dark World? Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Now, I'm a big fan of Jason Aaron, as I mentioned earlier, who wrote the Thor books for a few years. And I love that it does draw on little bits of his stories. Now, I picked up on a tweet from Dan Telfer earlier today. So just to give you a bit of background on Dan Telfer. He's a stand-up comic and he is a senior editor at Mad Magazine.
Oh, yes.
I thought it was very interesting because I sort of want to just flesh out a little bit on that Jason Aaron thing. Thor Love and Thunder is fantastic. One of my favourite hero-y movies yet. And in my opinion, it does a beautiful job of normalising cancer and empowering survivors. Which, holy shit, didn't expect that. As a survivor, thanks Taika Waititi, my dude, I cried with validation. Dang. So Jason Aaron was very good at doing this as well when he writes in, Jane having cancer and every time she wields Mjolnir, she basically is killing herself. It's undoing the treatment. The fact that they've managed to pull on that and again do a great job on the big screen, that is credit to Taika Waititi and the writer. What was her name? Just going to go back through. Jennifer Caton Robinson. So the fact that they've done a great job from pulling from the comics, we don't ever really see superheroes struggling with illnesses or cancer. Again, we've talked about this in the MCU before. We've seen them you see them having downtime. You wouldn't see that in a Batman film. It just doesn't happen. Or, as I say, trying to battle sickness while trying to be a hero. It's just done so well. And if people want a good entry point to comics, definitely check out Jason Aaron's Thor run. And he's always dropping nuggets throughout that series anyway towards War of the Realms, which is arguably one of my favourite arcs of Marvel Comics in recent years. It's just phenomenal. So go check that out. But what are your thoughts on that, Alex, on Dan Telfer's tweet?
Yeah, I mean, I said before, it's something which we sadly all can't escape to some degree. At least personally, I have been affected, and I think it was dealt with quite well. It's obviously a very difficult subject matter to deal with in terms of the context of a superhero film, a light-hearted one, and then Taika behind the helm. But I thought it handled it quite well, and I think it complemented the journey of both characters. So I can't disagree at all.
So got some stuff from the listeners, Alex.
Oh yeah.
First up, we got Brad from Strong Island Recordings. He often gets involved in our episodes.
Shout out to Brad.
He said, incredible stuff. Best Marvel movie, in my opinion. Still not the greatest hero movie, though, which belongs to this year's Batman. 2022 has been good for the fictional heroes. So I don't know if he's referring to Batman being the best film of the year or of all time. I couldn't quite grasp on that. But I mean, I think we talked about Batman in our birthday celebration. Someone asked us the question. I mean, Batman is quite good. It's a bit too long, in my opinion. a bit dark and a bit gritty. Whereas I think with Thor, we said it's sort of very colourful. It's very sort of upbeat in a weird sort of way, but it does combat the loss and various other, say, the undertones of being let down by gods and stuff. So I think they're both very different films.
Yes.
So I can't really compare the two. DC do dark and gritty very well, whereas Marvel sort of do big, colourful, flamboyant films a lot better. That's my opinion. Any opinions on that, Alex?
No, I think that's spot on.
Next up, we've got Mini Link. They said, just finished watching Thor: Love and Thunder, and I only have one thing to say. Why do Marvel fans hate fun? This film was great. It was funny, entertaining, and beautiful.
There you go. Someone else thinks it's beautiful. So I'm not the only one. I don't know if that comment is wholly fair. I think just there's a high bar. There's 28 other films. And there's a very high bar. Even if you look at number one, Iron Man, where started it all. I wouldn't say people don't like fun. It's just the MCU films now just have such a high caliber and expectation. And Taika does something invariably different. Now, I enjoy those different aspects, as we talked about, in the last hour. So I don't think that's wholly probably reflective of people that perhaps struggle with aspects of the film. But I guess I understand where they're coming from.
I mean, it has had a lot of criticism online through, I call them the casuals, people that probably don't necessarily read the comics. But, both film series and comics all have something very in common. You look at the different tones of each thing, they're all very different. So, Thor is like a fun cosmic adventure, whereas, you've got Captain America, which is sort of, Winter Soldier, for example, sort of very like underground, sort of, I don't know, I don't really know how to describe it. Each film has a different tone, or each character has a different tone. It's just certain vibes you get, I love reading Captain America, for example. Ta-Nehisi Coates' run was very good. And again, it's sort of like more about combating Hydra, sort of underground, secret operative missions and stuff like that. Whereas, you've got Iron Man who's going out taking on bloody Godzilla. It wasn't Godzilla, but, taking on like kaijus and God knows what. That's the magic of Marvel. They can draw you into different adventures on different tones. I think it's brilliant. And last time we got Lima app. Lima are a podcast platform, I believe, or of sorts. We're sort of trying to dive into this realm of trying to understand what they offer and what they could do for us. But they tweeted us. They said, really enjoyed the new Thor film. But that wraps it up for Thor: Love and Thunder.
It does.
Very good episode. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see how the remaining aspects of Phase 4 play out, and as we enter into Phase 5. But those are our thoughts, Dan. And of course, as always, we like to get other people's thoughts. We've got some contact details. If someone's getting in contact and say you're bonkers, it's a shite film, or what you're talking about, that's the best aspect. You guys don't know what you're talking about. How can I get in contact?
Well, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at On The Topic Pod. We've got Gmail, which is onthetopic.podcast@gmail.com. So, as Alex said, if you want to challenge us, come at me and bring us all your juicy comments, and we'll talk about it in the next episode. And Alex, we've got WordPress.
We do. It's nice and simple, all lowercase, all one word, onthetopic.podcast.wordpress.com. The reason why you want to go onto there is because we've got a newsletter. So the moment we release a new episode, you'll get pinged in a nice way, not in your spam, and it'll tell you that you've got a new episode to listen to. You can see our ugly mugs with our bios. You can browse the website for a whole back catalogue, all couple of hundred episodes of on topic and the weekly roundup as of before. And if that wasn't enough, you can also visit our affiliate t-shirt partner, which is Morbid and Mundane. And they've got some wonderful t-shirts, beanies, and the other beautiful garms for you to go and have a look and peruse at your leisure. But yeah, that's those are our contact details. So please do get in contact and let us know what your thoughts are. Or in fact, if you have a recommendation for any upcoming episodes. Now, speaking of which, Dan, I think the next episode coming up is World's Favourite Mysteries.
Yes, or Unresolved Mysteries, where I think we'll be talking about things like Jack the Ripper, Area 51, that sort of stuff. All the weird stuff. It's been a while since we've been down a crazy rabbit hole, and I've no doubt that somehow, somewhere, we'll get drawn into conspiracy theories in this episode, because,
as always,
it's our kind of world.
We love it. It's our bag.
I mean, at some point, someone's requested it, and this is why I'm watching it. We need to do an episode on Stranger Things.
We do.
But I mean, it could be a way off yet. I've only just started.
You've literally got hours, Dan. Hours upon hours and hours of beautiful, beautiful Netflix content to get through. So that's in the pipeline for sure.
Yeah, we're trying to get some guests on the show. I don't want to sort of go into too much detail, but say people are busy, they might not have the time. But I really hope we can get them on board. And talking to Morbid Mundane, we need to get Joey on the show. It's been a while.
It has.
Get some beers, get him in a room, get some mics set up, and we'll just get to know him. I think it'll be fun. We always mention him.
We do.
But I feel like our listeners should get to know him. But we'll see. A couple of ideas that we've come up with as well. So, of course, we will be reviewing Cobra Kai Season 5, one of our favourite series on Netflix, but that won't be until maybe September, October time. Depends how quickly we both burn through it. I mean, Season 4, I did it in 3 days. And, of course, we want to talk about the Orville, which I've been watching recently. Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll talk about... maybe not the entire 3 seasons, but we'll look at our top 3 episodes. I think that could be fun. But I mean, we've always got plenty of MCU episodes potentially lined up as well.
We do.
But we'll see. We're going to just keep going with Alex. We'll see where this podcast leads us.
We'll plug away.
Indeed. But that wraps up for another week. I'm off to the Shadow Realm, and hopefully I'll find some colour. I'm Dan.
And I'm grabbing my cursed sword and slitting some throats. I'm Alex.
Jesus, that got dark real quick. We'll see you next time.